Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Christmas to everybody. I hope Santa gets you like the best gift ever, which for me is always something around awareness. And then that gift box can also include a decent amount of really dark organic chocolate. So that's what I'm hoping for. Hey, so my name is Helena Papesh, for those of you who don't know me, and I am your go-to person when it comes to simplifying your way of doing your soulful 6+ figures in a done with you 4-step genius strategy way. So today we are having another training Tuesday. I want to thank everybody for being in the group, for participating. We're still in a very in a baby fetal phase, but I want to be creating as supportive as also like really challenging you to step up to where maybe you don't even see yourself yet, or maybe there's there's this little voice inside of you that just kind of keeps going, like there's more, right? And when we go and we follow that voice, and you can call it desire, you can call it purpose, you can call it your higher self, whatever you want to call it, right? Like from my experience and with so many clients that I work with, is like it always takes you to where you need to be. And that's always going to be the perfect, exact, and right spot for you, even though usually it's going to take an uncomfortable amount of growth, or leaping or maturing in one way or another. For some, that's going to be on emotional level. For others, it's highly connected to finances. And with others, it's again connected with learning how to think properly, even, right? So we've been having this challenge in the high end state of mind Facebook group around how to get to that how to experience a 25K day. So what I mean with that, and again, it's to support you and it's to challenge you what is possible. And this is just the beginning. I mean, a 25K day sales experience is, sometimes overwhelming, sometimes a long overdue type of experience, right? And it really doesn't get better than that. Like, a 15K, check in the mail, or, in PayPal, after you've done all the work and, you've really kind of like laid yourself out there, and you've been brave enough and courageous enough to expose and to be courageous and to deep dive into this new way of being, new way of doing work even, right? And so this is highly connected to what I talk about as the 4 steps, genius strategy, because it's based around somebody's, your genius and mine, right? So it's not based around somebody else's idea how your business is supposed to look like, what your business is supposed to include, how are you supposed to sell. Like, it's not based on the supposed to, it's not based on what was done so far, but it's very much based on your own creativity, your own transformation levels, your own where you're at, and also very much where do you want to be, where do you want to grow, because that's something that I'm very focused, future focused, right? Because where we're at right now, where you are today, this is old story. So we make peace with that, and we let go, and we say, let's move on, let's create, what is my future, what is my next step, right? And that's always that's always a really effective and time collapsing attitude, if I put it like that, right? That works every time, right? So first, well, I would have to tell a little bit about, why does it matter to have a bit of a strategy or a very specific strategy around the way we approach, high-end sales, right? Or high-end type of work, right? Because I firmly believe that we are here for, a very specific purpose, the above all purpose, like, that I see and believe is, of course, to be happy and to be free, right? And that freedom can be, it's more like mental, and it's more like spiritual plane, and it's more like emotional than often what the situation is, right? Because the most like in jailed people are, from what I see, is people who don't see that they have a different choice, people who don't even doubt their doubt, people who don't challenge their own beliefs, right? People who are just kind of like, I'm okay where I'm at, this is comfortable enough, and they believe that the system will take care of them. They believe that whatever they're doing in the name of being a good person or a nice person or a well-raised person is going to bring them what they want in life. And as we all know, that is not the story. That is just not the case. Because having a great life experience, it has nothing to do with like money per se, but it's very, very like highly connected to it, right? So when we talk about high-end services, yes, it's tied to money. So yes, we definitely need to work that worth, and we work on confidence, and we work on believing in the work that you do, right? It's so important, right? Because once you believe in the work you do, then others start seeing that as something of, it's something competitionless, competitionless. That's a long word. I didn't pronounce that correctly, but you know what I mean, right? So when we're seeking that next level, you will never be as, a high achiever or somebody who's always into, personal growth, which people in my, circle and people in the group are definitely are, right? It's like, it's never going to feel like, settling with something that is just mediocre is never going to do it for you. So you can just as well face it that, staying small, staying mediocre, staying put, staying where you are is never going to do the trick for you, right? Because if you have observed that, human pattern or your own pattern is that you continue to grow, that changes inevitable, right? Like you can't avoid it, right? You might as well stop fighting that and just like start embracing that and see where it takes you, right? So when people start, talking to me, it's at the level where, yeah, they're usually, frustrated, but like in a good way, frustrated with the intention and with the realization that they really want to move forward in the direction of what is their own genius, what is their own purpose, what is their own work, and like, the best way how to include their life story, right? The good and the bad, the yin and the yang, right? How they can include their own personality, right? The ways we react, the ways we are, how they can, the things that we believe is what creates the personality, right? And that's all changeable, okay? That's the fascinating part, okay? So, and that's also, it's also why they want to include their tangible gifts, they want to include their intangible gifts, right? And so there's a lot of things that often when we meet, they don't really, they're not really sure what it is, but they just know, there's something way deeper. There's something way, something that I can give more, and I can be more satisfied around, how I'm servicing my clients. And I don't mean that with just, pretty emails or a pretty logo. That's just very superficial stuff. Okay. So, who am I to talk about this? Okay. So I've been a coach like all my life. So since I was 18, before it was in a fitness industry, but it was always more or less very much one-on-one, right? And then also when I was doing more like, therapeutic massage and, running the spas and running the fitness and working with smaller teams, I was always like, the person that would be like, this is the level, this is the standard, you all have to learn, about how to treat the client, how to make the client, trust you, relax, and, so that they get the best type of experience for, whatever they were, after, right? And in the fitness is something very different than, when you come for a massage or or a spa treatment, for example, right? So reading into the client, tapping into the invisible parts of the clients, right? Uh, you know, like reading, the language, the body language, and also the words was always a big part of my world, right? So when I started to, I became a mom and I decided that I want to, stay at home a little bit more, and that my, heart kind of like desire was that nobody would be like, kind of telling me when I can eat and, when I should go to bed or whatever, right? So I was kind of like, again, wanting to have more freedom around that, right? And it comes with also more responsibility, of course, right? So I decided, and it was a process, right? But to step more and more into the online world. And so this was like, I think now 5 years ago, right? So and educated myself in coaching, so NLP, neuro linguistic reprogramming, hypnotherapy, practitioner coach, and then also like immediately when I started online, I started up leveling my own knowledge around, online business, marketing, copy, sales, how to do whatever, we were doing before in the brick and mortar, and then, how to do it now in a different constellation. And so one of the first things that became obvious to me was that, I was just not satisfied anymore, that with all this, bag of skills. So, just for me, or I can say for any of my clients that comes to me and we go through, once they fill out like the welcome package, or I give them this like very specific like exercise around what are the gifts, like what are the gifts, what are the skills that you are familiar with, right? That to name, right? And so they come up maybe with, a list of like 10, right? And then I challenge them to rewrite that, right? And I go, I ask them to kind of go all the way back, and write even like the smallest thing, even if it's like, I don't know, loved styling other people's hair, or, I used to be in a drama, like, thing in school, or, I used to write amazing love stories, or whatever it was, right? Because we're already kind of like tapping into what was it, before it became more or less such a, social construct, right? And I always want to know, like, what interest, what was the interest, is it more interest to work with people? Is it more inclination to work, I don't know, with, in tech, is it more, being savvy with, I don't know, coding or whatever, right? So there's so many ways how, you can see how one's gifts have developed, and, what type of skills they've added, and, try to embed themselves, right? So, but that's something that, person just feels, well, but how is that good enough? That's just like, I don't know, 200 of, or 100 of different types of skills, or something that I'm, okay with, and I can, sort of do, right? But it's not something where I excel. It's not something that I would say, wow, this is something that I can go in the middle of the night and sell to anybody as like, competitionless service, because that's the only thing that I do, and I would have no objection, or I would have like no disbelief in putting a hefty price on, like a hefty price tag on, because you would be very, very clear on what all that delivery includes. Let me put it like that, right? And so we talked about, in the first video, we talked about the story and how important that is, right? Like how it kind of, molds the way we view ourselves and how we view the world, right? And the story that we hold is a lot about perception, right? So we talked about it in the video number 1. And then we talked about the personality and how that is like influencing, or we're led to believe. And there's so many different types, how you can go around this, or not at all, right? So there's people who believe in, all the, the psychological way of looking into things. Then you have people who are, when you're trained the way I was trained, like there's just, they don't really believe in anything except in what works for the person, right? So that's basically kind of like my own belief also. Like, I don't really care. It can be, the person eating like bananas, like, 10 bananas per day. If that works, I'm good, So, if that makes them, really believe in themselves and, puts them in a really nice hormonal space, I'm cool. Like, I really don't care what the technique is or what the, what a tool is, right? But so today we're talking about the third step of the genius strategy, right? So which is the tangible gifts, as I mentioned, right? And the homework for everybody is going to be to tell me, like, what are 3 tangible gifts that you're aware of and that you're using, like, in your everyday life, right? Because that's always like where we grow from, right? And you would be surprised, and this is the homework that I would recommend everybody to do, like at least once or twice a year. It depends how much you're, educating yourself, reading and growing, basically, right? But it's like the list just like, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And, the skills just get so like interesting, right? Like, and so different than from, like, you don't even like, I don't even know a lot of people who does what I do. So it's always so interesting to meet like other people, but they do it again in a very different way. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody like you. Okay. And that is so specifically important, right? Because when you're doing high-end sales, it's not just about, oh, teach me how I can be convincing and teach me how I can manipulate somebody. It's not about it at all. High-end sales, the way I teach them, it's all about being in the highest authority, in the highest like integrity, like doing what feels right for you. But of course, then the beliefs around worthiness come in the way. So that's something that we coach on, of course, right? Then the beliefs around what the price should be, how this should be managed, and how should I get paid even, and for how much of your time, that gets in the way, right? Because there is distorted ways how also specifically women, so often how we look upon, like how we look at ourselves, what do we feel worthy of, right? Like, how do we kind of like price tag our time and our expertise, and somebody spending that time with us, they get the best of us, right? But we're so like used and trained into believing that like we're just nice, and you can be just spending time with us and it doesn't really matter and whatever. And so with that, like, we're kind of like keeping ourselves in this kind of like unsatisfied position where we also can't really then claim and kind of like position yourself as that expert, right? So that's one of the ways where we start, is with the tangible gifts. And that's, so all the gifts and all the skills, and let's say there's going to be a list of like, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 plus, right? And so that's something where your credibility begins, and where your kind of like awareness on what are you capable of, how deep your kind of like know-how or knowledge, or how you can penetrate other people's lives in a good way, how deep that actually goes, right? And the moment we begin to be more aware of like, oh wow, like I really bring a lot to the table, right? Then we don't need anybody to ask us, or we don't need to be convincing anybody. We don't need to be telling nobody what the worth is. It becomes a part of our belief, and it becomes a part of something that you just kind of like ooze, and it becomes a part of your magnetism, right? So that's why, if you struggle more with confidence, if you struggle more with like being focused on the work, on the sales, on, like keeping your worth like where it's supposed to be, then having those tools that, remind you, and keeping them close. So, things, the good things around your personality, the amazing client testimonials and thank you notes, etc. The tangible, like a list of tangible gifts, right? Because too often, especially if there's like some self-worth damage, right, we forget, and then we go like, what was it that I'm good at, right? Like, can I even do this? Like, and it's something that you can actually do with your left hand if you are in a confident state of being, right? Because confidence is a choice as much as is, okay, I'll be doing my work, my coaching or whatever for $50, right? And giving all this and still over delivering and still whatever, right? Or you can do something very similar and kind of like deal with your self-worth issues and, heal your money story and become that statue of like, this is wealth, this is abundance for me. Because then you can also, hire a team. You can also be working with an amazing photographer that, creates amazing visuals. And then you can also hire the best coaches, like whatever, it is. And you can also contribute back to the society, time-wise or money-wise, right? So I've been contributing to like back to, society, if you will, well, both ways, right? But mostly because I saw the value of that, spending time with people who were, not going to say less fortunate in that sense, but like who needed somebody, that they would spend time with, who needed to have conversations, who needed to have, somebody to go with them to the movies, or who needed to, who wanted to, I don't know, talk English, for example, right? Like I had somebody like that when I was, a student. I worked with a mental institute, like mental health institution, and so I would be taking care of this young, person, right? And he was, suffering from schizophrenia, right? But he was a lovely person when he was, stable, and we would like, he would be so lonely, right? So one of my gifts was I committed to, be frequently visiting him, and or he would come and visit me, and we would go and do things, right? And so he would feel less isolated, and he would feel like a part of the society, right? This is so many ways you can give, or give of yourself so that you feel like you're a part of community, right? Whether it's, through your school, whether it's through, giving your, an hour or two of your time on Saturday morning to a friend who, who needs to make a decision or whatever, right? Because it always pays back. It always pays back, right? And it pays back here, which is the most important, right? So tangible gifts are where we start to, and it's a really, really good start where you start to gain that credibility, where you can stand up to the client and you don't even have to like explain everything you did through your life, even though you could, right? But it's like, it doesn't really matter to that degree, but you are like, so you become so sure of yourself, right? You become, you become aware of all your so far experiences, right? Which, creates that kind of like confidence. And confidence is what sells. Confidence is what people buy. Confidence is what people see and want to hang out with, right? And if you don't appear confident, right, then, then that's something you need to, be working on ASAP. So, yes. So this is something that also, like, every time people come and they're like, well, I don't know how to, and I'm crap at sales, and I'm like, I don't know how to really show up, and I don't like video or camera or writing or whatever. And it's like, well, it's not really yet a marketing issue, right? Because we all know how to write if we sit down with it, and it's also a skill that can be learned, right? I've practiced my own marketing. Like when I started, I practiced it extensively for months and months, right? And it's always like something that you can work on, like, so again, it's more a matter of confidence and more a matter of like making that CEO decision. You know, am I doing this? And if I'm doing this, how am I doing this? Right? Because you can get to your, let's say, 150, 250K, like through servicing for 10 years, I don't know, 2,000 people, and, you know, charging them. Okay, my math is not today my strongest side, so I'm just kind of like, and charging them, you know, that $50 per hour, and, you know, always be in that, you know, paid per coaching session mindset or paid per hour mindset or whatever, right? Or you can play smarter and be also more focused on, because the clients, the same as like you, when you're after some sort of a service, you want a holistic service. You want somebody who really gets you. You want somebody who really sees you. You want somebody that you can trust. Like, we don't change hairdressers every session, right? Like, we want to decide, we search the market and we find somebody that we like and connect with, and then we commit to having that relationship with that person until we find a new person. Okay, so like, people run on trust. People run on, you know, they want to be with people who, you know, get them, and people they feel safe with, and people who also seem to be like evolving and seem to be growing, right? And so I'm sorry, I might be a little bit like, because it was a really short night, so Ariela kept waking me up for some reason. I don't know, she was having a school performance, and uh, maybe she was a little bit nervous also. So that's that, okay? But it's like, it doesn't really go as like, the marketing is not ever the reason. Lack of sales is not ever the reason, right? You're not being prepared. You're not being, you know, you're not feeling, you're not believing, you're not being confident around what it is that you do. Who are you doing that for and with? And, you know, what is your strategy around that? You know, how are you going to be servicing that client? Why should client trust you with, I don't know, 25K investment? It's a serious question, right? And it's like, why should a client entrust you with even, I don't know, a 5K investment? Like, what are you going to do for them? Seriously, right? Like, what is the steps? You know, what is the first step that you're going to take them through? How are you going to ensure that transformation level that you're, you know, claiming, or that the service that you're claiming to be providing is going to be delivered, right? Because we've all heard, you know, one too many stories of, you know, how people invest and nothing changes, nothing moves. They invested, and then it's like, um, you know, they're paid, and then the coach or the service provider just goes, it's paid, that's done, here's your, you know, package of things, you know, and this is what you have to do, ABCD, and that's it, I'm done. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do for you, right? And it's like, you will never get any significant results like that unless you are at the same level as that coach. You already like are, you know, making a significant amount of sales, and you are exactly kind of like, you know, at the same point, right? So for me, the point of the coaching and the point of the mentoring, two different things, right, is that I get to see the client going from point A to point B, right? And I see and I take them through that transformation, and I always know what is going on. I always know what their next step is. And so with that, I can always assure a client that whatever they're going through, whatever they're feeling, whatever is coming up is normal, because it is, right? Because high-end sales is not just, oh, like, let's learn, you know, 5 steps. It's not about that at all, right? It's a process, and as much as it's like a mindset and a strategy, it's also an art, right? And it's something that you grow into, and you become better and better and better, just like any other, you know, passion that you have and you're burning for, right? So when we work in one-on-one format, but also in the group format, because it's also created for one-on-one work, because I believe that's where like my genius is. When I listen to people, I hear what their belief is, I hear what the worry is, I hear what the procrastination is, right? And so I can help them to move through that faster, right? That's one of my beliefs, right? And so this is how, also when we do just, if it's just like a 5-10 minute chat through Facebook, Messenger or whatever, is enough for the person to, shift that perception, for the person to, oh, I see that, move forward, right? Because they're seeking change, they're seeking the next step, they're seeking challenge to be solved, they're seeking to break through, if you will, or they're seeking to, learn how to receive. Okay. So there's many, like there's very complex, and it's not at all as simple as it, to some people can look like, right? It's a very complex process behind it, right? And this is also why, when I teach this, I'm always like, I'm great at teaching people. Not everybody gets it, right? It's like, but everybody gets the value of it. Everybody gets oh, this is really going to change my life, if they're ready. Because it's not a quick fix. It's a lifestyle. Being a high-end coach is kind of a lifestyle, right? So it also means that you'll be working on your money mindset every day, or in your marketing, on your, like, you become that business. But then again, it's also what I was just telling the client the other day, like not making some silly, like chicken, headless chicken syndrome things in your marketing just because you're feeling like crap on that day. Okay, so that's again like two different things. You in business are like, you are the CEO, so you have to be always making the best decisions for the business too. The same with investing in, programs and coaches, or, investing in your own, support team, or whatever it is, that wherever it is that you're at right now, right? So this is why I want to talk about the group program that I've just posted, I think yesterday. And this is something that, grew from my signature program. And it's something that I worked with people like one-on-one also for the last 3 years, right? And it's usually priced at like 12K, right? So, but now I'm doing this again in a group format, right? So that's why I'm so exciting. And it's like for anybody, you have no more excuses right now. If price was your excuse, right? Like, because you cannot get this amount of value and amazing work, a lot of one-on-one work with me, a lot of teaching, a lot of like perspectives and tricks and mindset stuff, and like just whatever you can think of that involves, or evolves around high-end sales, high-end clients, creating that, selling that, and then also, if the time will allow, delivering that. Okay, because the delivery is where it gets tricky, let me put it like that. Okay, the delivery is also where you again and again test your work, and you tweak whatever is not working, you leave out, or you change a bit of, the structure of the process, until you have something that is actually working almost like 100% of the time, which is something that I've created for myself with my mentors. And like, it's the best feeling when you can just go like, okay, like whatever, if the world is collapsing, like, this process is something that I can lean into, and I know for sure, like 100%, it brings results every time when the client is, of course, invested, right? So this is something that I'm super excited to be sharing now. It's Christmas, so it's perfect time and it's perfect day, right? And so you can read a little bit about that in the post, right? But it's like anything from productivity, to, unconscious competences that you're not even aware of now. And they really add a zero to your, to your price tag, right? And so, super excited about that. And this is something that we're going to be starting in on the 16th of January. So you have plenty of time to think about it. You can PM me about it. Like, we can talk about it. and the price is so gentle. Like there's no way that like even with just one sale, like you get this back. I mean, this is just a no-brainer, okay? Because the way I work, like my vibration is just set like that. Like I don't even have a client that would do a sale less than 5,000, right? It's just not in my genes. So it's something that I worked extensively on, like, and it's also something that, you know, it's just something that it's so natural, and it's such like it's a natural bar, right, for me. So this is also the bar that whenever you step into my energetic field, it becomes like normal and, you know, natural to you. And that way I help you with all my work, with everything that I have, with my, you know, being sure of the things that I saw, sure of the things that I did, sure of how this process goes. You know, your process, your success time frame, it collapses, right? So that's why I can always say I help people to collapse their yearly income into 1 month, or their monthly income into one sale, right? And I know that sometimes it's a big promise, but it whenever we were, you know, seriously about it, and, you know, people would move into my 25K 90 days package, that always takes place, right? Because it's all set up like that, it's all aligned with that. And it's also, you know, it's the energetics, it's the mindset, and it's the strategy, besides also the marketing, you know, of the high, you know, high ticket sales, right? And from what I've been studying all of this year, this is definitely going to be the future. The future is going to be relationship based business. It's going to be high end oriented. It's going to be, whether it's going to be one-on-one, but then also, you know, one to small groups type of a format, or VIP days, or, you know, virtual retreats, or, you know, live retreats or live events. Like you have endless possibilities what you can do with this, right? And it's like that is the part where your personality and how you prefer to work, and also like your situation, right? Like, you know, I'm a mom, so I don't like to travel that much right now, but I used to, right? I mean, I was all over the world, so, you know, so it's not something that it's just something that it's not like at all interesting to me right now, unless it's like an educational event, right? Okay, I got really thirsty there. So I would love to invite you to, like, you know, check out all the details and see how this, you know, resonates and fits with you, because we're going to have amazing group calls. Like we always have such like aha moments, and such like, oh, but I thought this was like completely different, and it was like very, you know, techie or whatever. And like, it's not at all like that, right? So I take you into the, you know, the back end of, you know, how spirituality works with this, why money is important for your purpose, right? Like how, you know, the premium sales, or, you know, high end sales, high end clients come to, you know, how do you get, you know, high end clients, right? And it's not something that you would say that, you know, or, you know, you're familiar with, right? I also will gonna show you, you know, like my list of go to NLP inspired mind opening questions, right? So when we're feeling uninspired or overwhelmed or whatever, like that's something that is of high value, and that's something that it's the first time that I'm offering in this group. Besides the welcome package, of course, and you get to have every 14 days we're going to have a call in the group, right? And you can come with Q&A, or you can ask them beforehand. You know, my email, my Facebook is going to be open to you, and, you know, me or somebody from the team is going to be taking sure that, you know, that runs smoothly. And so, like, all the questions, you know, come and bring all the questions. I love questions, right? Like I love questions. And it's also where we kind of like connect, and through the welcome package already, like I already know where to take you, like partially, and then it's all up to you, how ambitious you are, how driven you are, how fast you want your results, where you're at right now, you know, in your sales or in your marketing or in your work, right? And it's like everything can be turned into amazing high-end package, right? And you would be amazed when I tell you, and this has always been the truth, that whatever you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I could be selling at that price point, but the desire is already there, it's already resonating with you. The client for that price level is already not just one usually, but let's say one, it's already in your environment. Okay. And this is something I can say with 99% faith and belief and reassurance, because it's true every time. Okay. 100%. 100%. Let's just put it like that. It's Christmas after all. So this is going to be something that we go through 12 weeks together. This is amazing, right? This is where, you know, the best work gets to done. And you also have time in between the calls, because calls are every, 14 days, that you can do the work, you can do the homework, you have time to, go over the videos if you don't have time during, on Thursday, for example, when the videos are set to be. And so you have, like, it's your own process, but you also get to talk to me, right? Because you always get to talk to me, because that's the best way and that's the fastest way to create your own breakthrough. So this is a very gentle price tag that we're talking about for all this work and so much more. And it's gonna set you well off on your, like, on the track to your 5-figure sales days or your multi 6-figure income, right? Because the strategy for that is actually really simple. But now to fill out that vehicle, right? That's where the work needs to be done before you can be even touching marketing or even talking sales or even inviting people to having, conversations with you around your work. Because if you don't know what you're actually selling, and it's always a bit different than what you think you're selling. Okay, it's always a bit deeper or higher or more spiritual or more surprising, right? And that's the joy of this work, so much so when people realize this, and then they just get lit, they just get so inspired, and they just go like, oh my God, I didn't know that was what I was doing with my clients, that that's what, they got those amazing results and I was not even claiming them, right? And I was like, of course, because you didn't know that this was your contribution in there. Like, that's unconscious competence, right? Because that's something you're so good at, but it's so natural to you that you just can't. It's like your own blind spot, and you're like, well, what is it? Like, what is it that I do? What is it that I can put, the 5-figure price tag on? And that's something that I help you with. Okay. So the investment is going to be 4,000 for early birds until 30th, right? That's it. Like, you have 6 days. That's enough. That's plenty. And then we move into the full pay, which is 5,000, right? And then the payment plan, of course, right? So that's the 6,000. And you have all the details in the post. And I would just want to say that, I don't know, like, it would be something new, and, to be like surprised, because I've worked with, architects, designers, healers, and therapists, and psychotherapists. And I don't know, like, what was the most, like, unexpected niche? Like, I don't even have that, like, because for me it's like anything and everyone can be upgraded, right? Like, your work and your life and your lifestyle, everything can be upgraded, right? And it's something where we turn whatever is, like, it's good enough and it's working now, but it's at a very conventional, very learned level, right? It puts you in a position where you kind of, like, still need to be behaving, right? You still need to be the nice person. It's like in so many ways, like, you still need to be, sort of like tied in to that, right? And this is the challenge where, we want to break that mold, like, completely. And we just want to go, like, what do you want? It's the simplest and it's the most powerful question, is what do you want? And it takes a lot of soul searching for some people to actually get to the honest, authentic desire, and not what we were, like, made believe that we need, or that we were made believe that we need to go after, or that we were made to believe that we need all these things in order to feel fulfilled. And that's then never it, right? So there's something different, there's something other than what you think that you believe that you need to be. And then there's this another reality around you that it's much more authentic. It's much more scary also to step into, but it's very empowering, and you know it because when you're in it, it's kind of like you just know you're in the right kind of like cold wave of the truth. You're not overwhelmed, you're not stressed out, you just know that you're doing the right thing. It's what I call the Zen, right? And it's like where, that's where things start to speed up, but it's in a very calm way. You're grounded, you know what you're doing, you know who you're talking to, etc., right? And so this is all the work that we do. Is first layers are conscious layers, and then it just goes deeper into the subconscious, because that's where the real beliefs and the change of the beliefs and the quick changes can and always do take place. So if you've been struggling and feeling like you're dancing on ice lately, it's because you are tackling the problem that it's of a different nature, of subconscious nature, on a very conscious level. Like you're trying to think your way out of the problem. It's never going to solve a problem that it's actually of emotional nature, or that it's actually of like a purpose that needs to be stepped into, right? So it's more like spiritual plane, or so you can't really be thinking about it and go like, well, I'll just try a different tactic, when life is calling you to start expressing yourself in a much, much bigger way, or in a much more honest way, also around spirituality, or what you believe in, or how do you see this world, going around, or what do you see is important and relevant, or, how to bring more, of the good feeling into the world, right? And how do you see yourself contributing that, because that's very, very important, right? And that's all the work that we're going to be doing also, the deep dive work in the group, right? So we're starting on the 16th of January. I'm so excited about that, right? And it's going to be filled up with wonderful people. I firmly believe that was already my choice and my decision. It always is so, right? And it's like, this is what you get, what people usually have to pay like 12K, for to be working with me in such a like time frame. But because we're doing it in a group format, so now we, I can create this kind of opportunity for you, so that you can experience how I work, and why does my work bring also monetary results so fast to people that have been, going circles and circles and circles, for such a long time. And I'll be, super excited to be exploring that with you, whether in one-on-one, you can reach out for that level of work with me. If you're ready for that, that's, totally fine. Or if you want to do the group program, I'm super excited about that. And I want to invite you to, fill out the form. It's a typed form on my personal profile page. It's on the left side, or just PM me, and somebody will send you that form. And again, have beautiful, powerful, loving, stay-centered Christmas, and think about what it is that you want in your life, and where do you see your life, what direction do you see your life going or taking, and what would you do if all you had was like this unbelievable belief and love for yourself, right? And feeling of, oh my God, I'm so worthy, oh my God, I'm so wonderful, oh my God, I'm such a good person, I'm here in the right time, in the right place, and this now is a perfect opportunity to be who I truly, aspire to be. Okay? Love you so much. Have a beautiful Tuesday and Christmas, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.